Darcie Warden. Really, really love this conversation with Darcie. Midlife. What is midlife? She helps people awaken themselves in their midlife. I wonder what your definition of midlife is, wherever you are in your age. And that's the very first question I ask. People sometimes feel invisible in their midlife, with difficulty focusing. This is what she does. She coaches people in their midlife and certain things that are needed at that time. I ask about when you enter it. When is it? Is it different for everyone? Is it different from men, from women? How do you work with them? She has a great Instagram page where she gives 6 traps you need to escape out of your 40s is one that we go over. Number 1 is hamster wheel. I wonder what you think about the next 5. Her background's incredible. She lived in Alaska for 14 years. She's now in Montana. And just an incredible, inspiring woman Darcie is. And I really enjoyed the conversation. As me being someone in their midlife, I'm currently 55. I wonder about these things, and I wonder how people are handling it. I'm shocked often when I'm in a room and I discover that I might be the adult in the room. It's shocking to me. But a great conversation with Darcie. I know you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic. I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. My goodness, Darcie Warden, thank you so much for your time. I'm very excited to talk to you. What is midlife?
Oh, this is something I think about a lot. But midlife is a significant and dynamic life stage. And what I mean by that is when we start to move into our mid-30s, late 30s, we move into our 40s, then into our 50s, mid-50s, we have a lot of responsibilities. We have a lot of life changes and events. And we're also beginning to think about our legacy. So in a way that we didn't when we were in our 20s. And so there's a lot of external change and there's a lot of internal change. And so when I think about midlife, it really is this time of certainty and uncertainty at the same time.
As I hear your definition, age groups come into place, so is it really different for everybody? Generally speaking, men mature much later than women, but so is it different by gender? Is it different by community? Is it different by just person, life happenings?
Yeah, I so appreciate this question, which is why I've actually struggled with the word midlife itself, because it's different for everyone. Although I would say early adulthood offers certain aspects, like growing into who you're going to be, establishing who you want to be, like finding your place. But as we move through those early 20s, these things of life events, of figuring out who we want to be, you could even have a divorce. You could be divorced. You could have a major loss before you're 30.
Mm.
And these are things that kind of indicate midlife, right? Because and what happens, it's more of, I would say it's more of a life stage rather than a number.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's possible for some, I mean, just by the raw, looking at the term midlife, it's the middle of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't really serve it. I mean, it can't be too young, can't be too old, I guess. But I feel like I'm in my midlife. When did I start? I'm 55 years old. When did it start? I don't know. I still feel very young and immature in certain places. And um, it's fascinating as I look into what you do. Here's a great thing that you say that I just kind of have been tripping on for a couple days. We are practicing who we are every second of the day.
Yeah. How does that land for you?
Um, when does practice end and game
Can I stop practicing? Um, when are we just in it? When are we just like shifting the car without thinking about it?
Mm.
Right. And I do believe we are practicing every day. But when we get so into that practice, it does become second nature. It becomes muscle memory. And I'm just going to lean into your philosophy a little bit around discipline, right? So the
Mm.
discipline of practice creates our ability to do the things we want to do easier. It's
Hmm.
not always hard work once we've been disciplined and practice in it.
Yeah, that is true. Fascinating background from California. You moved to Alaska in 2001, 14 years. You lived in a log cabin. You hauled water, Darcie. You were helping some of the, conservation. And then you went to Bozeman. Uh, Big shifts in just your geography. Did this, did the midlife, f- did you move for the midlife or did the midlife move with you?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I'll come back to life stages as well, right? So
Mm,
when I moved to Alaska, I was in my later 20s. So I was moving towards 30.
mm,
And so the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, if we look back, you might see
mm,
some big changes taking place around those times. So then I moved to Alaska. I'm there for 14 years. I think I left. So I've been here 8 years. I left when I was around 42. So there we are again in this space of big change. So I would say yes, midlife was a big piece of that because as a mom of a middle schooler at the time, looking at where I was at, who I wanted to be, who I wanted my son to grow up to be, what kind of resources and experiences I wanted him to have. These were these big questions that we have in our life. How am I going to have the biggest impact with the most good in the decisions that I'm going to make right now?
mm.
And so those were, and I'll share also when I hit my mid 30s. Yeah, I hit my mid 30s. Again, entering into midlife, I was transitioning into a much more intentional and practiced health and wellness space for myself. So I knew at that point I wanted to feel good. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be able to show up in each day as my best self. So I started doing the things that would help me get there. So that was also midlife.
So why did you start living with such intentionality at that age?
I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I think there was a lot of stuff happening. I recognized that there were areas in my life I did not have to be unhappy in anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I also recognized that I wanted my son truly is the reason that I stepped into being a better human.
Mm.
I was called to be a better human because I was raising a human, right? My
Mm.
God. So the other piece of that was is how do I lead by example and break. I love my family. I love my, but there are things that we take along with us where I'm like, I'm actually going to break the chain on that piece. That's not going to be a piece that carries forward with us. And so I was really
Mm.
intentional about that too.
And so when you started living with intentionality like this, you came into this new stage, into this new time, and you learned from it so much so that you thought you could help others with it.
Yes.
Why? That doesn't happen, Darcie. People help themselves,
Yeah.
and then that's it.
Right. Why would you do that?
Yes.
That's another really, really good question. It's, it's what I stand for.
Mm.
So what I stand for is that, and I experienced this. I was around people who were living into their best selves. And what happened for me when I was around them, it gave me permission to be myself.
Mm.
And it gave in the freedom that came with that, all that self-talk of like, don't say the wrong thing. And, do they like me? And that's all there. It never goes away all the way. Right. But we can recognize it. So I fundamentally believe that there is enough joy and love and abundance in the world for all of us to show up exactly as who we are
Mm.
and not have to hide it. And I think I was hiding things for so many years, and that's where I was unhappy, is I didn't, for fear of rejection.
Hmm.
And so the reality came to be for me is that people actually connected with me more. I had better relationships when I was truly showing up as my full self. And so when when I received that gift and I look around and I see what's happening in our world, I want to be able to give that gift to other people as well.
Mm. You mentioned at one point, you talked about being rejected. You had you thought the world was over when you were young, when you got your heart broken, and you move on and you come into this midlife. Can you, in your midlife practice, help those who aren't there yet?
Oh, I do think so. Yeah. So I wish someone had been like, let's get you ready for this because you got some
Mm.
stuff coming, right? And it's funny because, like, when we're younger, and I was thinking about this before we started our call, there's a point in our lives where we're looking around and, like, who's the adult in the room? Where's the adult, right? And then all of a sudden it's us.
Mm.
And so I want to get people ready to be the adult in the room with grace and love and wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, and poise and
Yes.
ho and and yeah, I find myself in that case sometimes where I think to myself, "My goodness, I think I'm the adult in this room." That is scary. That is
Right?
scary. That is so scary. I still don't even clean up after myself properly, I still do so many things that I'm not deserving of this, and, which brings me to my next point is, I have daughters, and, I spend a lot of time with my mother when I was surrounded by women all the time, and it's just men mature later than women. It just, and I know it's generally sweeping and a point, but, you know, to my question I just had, if a man isn't there, how do you help them with these kind of midlife solutions?
What say if a man isn't there?
I'm sorry, isn't I have single friends, single lady friends, and sometimes they date younger men. And I say, a man isn't a man until he's at least, people are not gonna like this, but I say 50. Some will say 45. But before then, especially the men, and so
I see what you're saying.
uh, is it more difficult to work with men than women in your midlife practice?
Okay, again, you're asking such awesome questions.
Yeah.
Um, I would say yes, working with men and women are very different. And
Mm,
I really enjoy working with both men and women. And because they are so different, and in my work, I meet people where they're at, right? So I'm not trying to change them. They're coming to me because there is a level of discomfort that is high enough for them that they actually want to do something about it. So I work with each person where they're at. And I'll just say, I do enjoy working with men because they're they're easier for me to speak very directly to.
mm,
And I'm a direct person. So,
mm.
and not that I can't speak directly with women at all. That's not the case. But it's a different rhythm. It's a different exchange than when I'm working with a man.
Yeah, I could see that, and most men would prefer that directness.
They do, yeah. And I think, and my questions, so just, I don't tell people what to do. So when I'm direct with questions, right?
Mm.
They're very specific and powerful questions. And so it gets people thinking. And I'll challenge a little bit here and there because that's my job. I'm a coach.
Mm. Mm.
But mostly people are just needing help finding their way. And so I ask the questions to kind of guide.
I agree with you, Darcy. As I get older, I find I have much more questions than I have answers.
Yes.
Much more. Perhaps one of the main reasons why we're talking today. And as far as advice, when somebody asks me for advice, I first qualify and say, I do not ask me for advice. But this is a situation that was similar to what you're asking about. This is what I did, and this is what I should have done. I'm not good enough to give advice, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
I used to facilitate peer groups, and that was similar to what you had to do there. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
On your Instagram, you have a lot of great content.
Thank
Six
you.
traps you need to escape in your 40s.
Oh,
Hamster wheel.
yeah.
So
That's one of my
everybody can
favorite.
picture. You can picture what's happening there, right? What's happening? You're running in circles.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not getting anywhere. You're
Right.
working really, really, really hard and you're not getting anywhere. And so that is something that I really like to work with people on
Mm.
because I was one of those people. I was on the hamster wheel. I was in a job that was every day becoming less and less satisfying, but I felt like I had to stay on the wheel because I had to pay the bills and I had to, there's all the reasons why we have to. And if we really look at it, have to is a belief.
Mm.
And what we can do is an opportunity.
Mm.
And I leaned into the opportunity, and it's scary. Getting off the hamster wheel is not
Mm.
comfortable. It's extremely challenging and uncertain. And it's in one of the ways that we're going to grow and we're really going to know who we are because we keep knowing who we are every time we do something different.
And one that surprises me, but I'm in technology. But there's many people in their midlife who just refuse to. They're reluctant to
Yeah.
adopt technology.
Yeah. I see that a lot. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, my mother, who's older, obviously, still won't even use the microwave, and the ATM. Forget about it. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of, not wanting to adopt it, but then there's a lot of thought around um, what people are tracking, who's tracking you, what they
Mm,
know. There's
mm,
all kinds
mm.
of of thoughts that take place, and we believe those thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
Silencing the voices can
Yeah.
be,
I
yeah.
work with people on that's one of my favorite areas to coach in is what are we believing? What are you believing? How true is that? Yeah. How does it serve you?
Mm.
It must in some way.
Positively or negatively.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your
Sometimes it's
next,
easier to stay stuck than to actually make a
mm,
move.
because there's complacency and there's no surprises and you're used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Better to stick with the devil you know.
Uh, yeah, I have heard that. The next two are similar: the failed skateboard comeback and the aging hipster.
Oh God. Guilty, right? So
Yeah.
so mine, I just have to share. I was a bit of I water skied when I was young. And I went years and years and years. I finally went water skiing again last summer. I got up, but it took me a little while.
It's not like riding a bike.
No, no, there's a lot of, and it's interesting because my mind saw me there, saw me being this
Mm,
rocking it, single on a single ski, water skiing.
mm.
And my body was like, no, 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 friend, that's not it. So, yeah.
With one hand twisting around,
Yes.
lifting one leg up, and yeah, just not happening. Yeah, yeah.
No,
I
no.
find some comfort in knowing that I'm far less cooler than I think I am. You know.
Oh, okay. So tell me more about that. What comes with you? Like, what's happening there?
Well, I at a certain age, you had lots of confidence in things that you did and how you carried yourself, and I still have that now, but it's a bit more of a laid back. I wouldn't call myself an introvert, but more laid back, more uncaring kind of disposition. Whereas before, again in your 20s, maybe suppose your 30s, it was like everybody should know how cool I am. Now it's I don't care who knows, and whoever does, I'm a lot less than I think I am. So yeah, yourself.
Yeah. Oh God, there's so much. Freedom is always the word that comes to me, right? There's just so much. I'm a total goofball, right? I
Mm,
just am, and uh, I tried to. That was part of me that I tried to hide for years. So now,
mm.
like the goofiness comes out, and there's lots of jokes that go out there. They don't land. I don't worry about it anymore. Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that happened. So there's a freedom.
There is, and at least we have a name called dad jokes. What do you get to call it? I get
Uh,
bad jokes all the time.
yeah, just bad jokes, like
Just
non
bad.
jokes.
Yeah. Eye rolling or yeah, yeah. The
Thank you for
reckless night
that. Yeah.
the reckless night owl. Now this is somebody who just kind of refuses to understand where
Yeah.
you are in your life.
Yeah. The reckless night owl. So many people are reckless night owls. I'm not one of them, but I get it. But I do, that comes back to health, right?
Mm.
Sleep is so important. It is like the central pillar for me to have a good day. And I know that. So I take care of myself that way. But there's a lot of folks, they're up scrolling. They get into bed, they're up
Mm.
scrolling, and before they know it, a couple hours have gone by. Yeah. So
I mean,
there's,
it's only negative.
yeah.
I have found as I got older, I have turned into, my goodness, 9:30. I'm out. My goodness. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
get up at 5. And if I'm ever, your mountain time now there in Bozeman, but if I'm ever in the West Coast by 6 o'clock, 6:30, my body stays in the East Coast. I'm in New York. So in the East Coast time. And that's just, but when I get up at 5:30, I am 100%. I am ready to go. And my friends don't appreciate it. Why are you so chipper in the morning? But this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, so I just kind of bounce right up. The stubborn wardrobe warrior.
Mm, yeah. I am also guilty of this. So there's a couple of things with the wardrobe warrior. I have old t-shirts that you can
Hmm.
see through the back, and I love them. And I thought I was so cool when I had them, in my 20s.
You are cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Uh, um, but the other stubborn wardrobe warrior is not just the thin t-shirts, but maybe those pants that we wore in our early 20s, and we
Mm.
swear we're going to get back into those. And our body, not only we change shape, we like things the way, even as a thin person, my body is not the same shape that it was back then. So it's, these are the stubborn ideas we want to hold on to about ourselves. And I think that's what that wardrobe really represents, is hanging on to a piece of us that we aren't anymore. And it's okay to let it go.
I had every color corduroy. I had burgundy. I had navy. I had cream. I had, and it swished when I walked into halls, and I was it. Boy, I tell you, me and my corduroys. But I don't have any now. I don't know if they still make them. They probably do. Probably some hipster place makes it. But I mean, I get asked sometimes, like, if you go back, do you have regrets? You go back and change anything? What would you tell your younger self? I would tell my younger self nothing. You're going to have highs and lows. You're going to have two beautiful children who are healthy. Just keep doing it. Just that whole kind of these people that kind of live in the past. They start to annoy me a bit.
Yeah. Living in the past is, um, this might be, it will hold you back. Living
Right.
in the past will hold you back, is what I will say. Yeah. Yeah. Because then you're not stepping into who you're meant to be today. And my God, we have so many years behind us, so many experiences. And a lot of us have been through some stuff, and we are like tempered steel.
Mm.
Why waste that edge?
Tempered steel. It's very true. When occasionally I'll run into, high school, and they'll bring up something that happened and I kind of laugh for a while. But I mean, you're a teenager. You're drinking, I was drinking beer and playing soccer and chasing girl. I mean, it's very, very, it's very different, and yeah, it's hard to kind of get unstuck from there. But this is where you need to make a decision about who you associate with and who you want to elevate with.
Yes, as well as, so I think that's huge, because who we surround ourselves with as we are in
Mm.
our 30s, 40s, 50s, these are really important relationships that are symbiotic, right? We are giving and receiving constantly. The other piece that I feel like I've discovered for myself anyway is really understanding my values. Like, what am I going to leap off this edge for, that I care about
Mm.
it so much,
Hmm.
And so really grounding in the values and making decisions with that value being my anchor. Does this fit in my value, and go from there? And then there's like it doesn't make life easier, but it does make it less anxious.
Mm. And like you said earlier, Darcie, once you have a child, I mean, that just changes everything because I'm not living for myself anymore.
Right.
There's a piece of myself in my two beautiful daughters, and it'll keep on living with them. It'll be passed down. And it's just that changes everything. And for those that don't have children, I understand that position as well. But for me,
Yeah.
hard to relate to those who don't have children.
Yeah. And I have a number of friends who opted, they just decide we're not going to have children.
Yeah.
And they've, I think everyone finds their, like for me, having my son was a game changer. And I think other people have their game changers, no matter, whatever that is for them. But it makes you go like, whoa, what is
Yeah.
important to me?
Yeah, save my life, you know? I mean, certainly turned it into a different direction. 5 things my 40s taught me. Growth is difficult, but so is staying in place.
Yeah. Which difficulty do you want to choose? Yeah.
Yeah. Growth is growth and learning, which is the mission of this podcast for me, by the way, is to learn. And I can't imagine a time, this is me speaking, but I can't imagine a time that I'm not learning. I have to kind of, since I have more questions than answers, I feel that I need to ask more and learn more. So growth is paramount in my life. I would think it's for most.
I for the people that I surround myself with, yes. I would say yes. And I think it's hard, right? So I think we can find ourselves in positions where we're going to go ahead and stay. We're growth minded and we can seek growth in some areas and not in others.
Hmm.
And because it's
Hmm.
almost like, I'm trying to think when I was learning how to play the flute and I was growing that in mastering that instrument. And there were certain pieces that I could play really, really well, and there were certain pieces that were really challenging for me. And so after a while, I kept playing the pieces that were really easy for me. So there was a desire for growth and a desire, but I did end up taking the easy way and not progressing. And
Hmm.
I can think of several areas in my life where that happened. So I think we have to be aware of what brings growth. So doing the
Hmm.
same thing over and over and over again for a little while, you'll grow, but eventually you'll plateau. And so what gets you to that next level of growth?
Yeah, and that's a really function of prioritization, right? Because I play guitar as well, and certainly I could take a lot more lessons and get better. I think I'm just at a comfortable place now where I can play some songs and I can entertain myself and whoever's, being tortured around me. But the point is that I'm just at a level that I'm comfortable with. So there's some areas I want to kind of branch out with. When you work with people that are couples, is it important that you see them together?
Um, well, yes. Yes, absolutely. I've worked with couples separately, but working with couples together really is ideal because that is getting, we're in community together
Mm.
and there's no relay, like it's all happening in real time, right? Like no one's saying something different outside of a session. It's all there in the session. So yeah. And I haven't worked with couples in a long time, but um, I do love it because it's rich and we get more out of it when someone else is participating with us.
I would think also you can learn more about the environment with their partner. You can learn more, get more perspective.
Oh yeah, dynamic shows up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. When criminals or suspects are apprehended, a group of them, the police always separate them to get their stories and see if they connect. I would wonder with some couples, is it good to actually, when you want to hear a story, to separate them and then kind of bring them back? Because, will they be different, or will it just be the masculine versus the feminine side, or whatever the dynamic is there? It's an interesting. Uh, God, the work that you do with that must be so rewarding when you work with people like that need it.
Oh, I love my work. I love it. Yeah, and I just feel incredibly lucky. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. I am lucky.
Yeah, yeah. My values and views will change, and that's okay. Yeah, who
Yeah.
says we have to stay the same? By the way, any position I have, I reserve the right to change it in any time given new evidence. Who these people that dig in and say I am right no matter what the evidence? Where are we, people? Why do we have to dig? If only the world could adopt this philosophy, Darcie. You know what I mean? Oh, that is an interesting perspective. I think I'm gonna. That's very interesting. I always thought this, huh? That's you never hear that, right? It's a shame.
Yeah, rarely. And when we're in growth minded, I'm a part of a group that I really love. It's a growth minded group, and we're always offering new ideas on the table. And we're like,
Hmm.
wow, I never thought of it like that. Oh, that's interesting. And you people say, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm thinking about it. You got me
Yeah.
thinking about it, right? Yeah.
And by the way, good people can disagree.
Yes. Yes.
Good people, good friends can disagree. I like chocolate. You like vanilla. I mean, it's something as I like the Yankees. You like the Red Sox. There was this one story. think it was one of the podcasts where the family, when they made the pot roast at Thanksgiving, I know Christmas, I'm not sure, they would always cut the ends off of the roast and put it in the pan. And they're like, why do you do that? I don't know. Grandma used to do that. So it's just been passed down. Okay. So, she decides to find out. She asked the aunts. Everybody does it. Asked the grandmother. Months go by. She asked great aunts, great aunt. We all do it. We all do it. Like, I don't know how much long later, she eventually finds out that the oven was so small and the pan was so small, they had to cut the ends off to fit in. That's why they did it.
Right.
So, and you're kidding me. So they stopped doing it because it's just kind of been passed down. And this is the way it is. That's what we're going to do it. This is the way it is. But, let's find some real reason and perhaps wrap
Yeah.
around
Get
it.
curious.
Yes, get
Right?
curious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my major pieces. Like, am I being curious right now, or do I think,
Mm.
or am I just like deciding?
Every once in a while, I'll get accused of being too interrogative. I don't mean to. I'm just asking questions. I don't know how else to learn other than ask questions.
Yeah.
The Socratic method. Let go of the things that does not serve me anymore.
Mm, yeah. That's a lot of what we're talking about already.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to make those, friends, sometimes even family. This is you got to really choose who you associate, what you watch, what you listen to, what you, a lot of the stuff today is just geared to get you angry. Angry people listen more, and they can charge more for advertising, or they can vote, or whatever. Just choose what you listen to, what you read, and who you associate with. It seems
Yeah.
so simple.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and not just with like-minded people too. Let's get some different views, and let's get some different backgrounds, and let's get some this pie in the sky stuff. But I think it's worth it.
I think what you just said is so important
Yeah.
because talking about letting go what doesn't serve anymore, when we meet people who are politically different minded than us, religiously different minded than us, whatever philosophically, family, relationship, all those things. If we can meet people who are different than us and truly be open to who they are as a human and not have decided right away
Mm,
who they are,
mm,
like
mm,
you just opened up a whole new world to you. Like, and I've done that. And I have friends who are very different than myself. And admittedly, there are things we can't talk about, right? It's just not going to happen. But I see them, I love them. They are just as human as I am,
mm.
and it's beautiful for what it is.
Yeah, and if they can't take a little nature ribbing, and you get it back as much
Yeah.
as you give,
Yeah.
that's what you know. Self-care and exercise are essential for well-being. So
Yes.
simple.
So simple, and yet can be so challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when my oldest, I coached my daughters in soccer, and right before high school, she said, "Dad, I don't want to play soccer anymore." I said, "I completely understand. What are you going to replace it with? You've got to do some exercise. This is not a temporary thing. It's going to be for the rest of your life. You're going to keep exercising." She said,
Yeah.
"Okay, great." And she chose, I think she chose CrossFit at the time. So whatever it is, you have to keep doing it because your body just rewards you so much.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wants to.
And this is another one where when I work with my clients, how strong we feel in our body, how flexible we feel in our body, how much space we have in our body actually translates into how we show up in the world. So this is home base
Mm.
right here. We got to take care of it.
Be kind. We are all doing the best we know how.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder to be kind. It's easier to get angry and everybody's wrong and I'm right, or everybody's dumb and I'm smart, or there's a lot of kind of finger pointing, but we just kind of sit back and, yeah, go ahead, go in front of me in traffic. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't. It's just you get perspective that way. Where are you going? What are you in such a rush for? Just be kind.
Mm.
I mean, again, it seems so simple, Darcie.
And it is, and it's so powerful. A smile. Someone you walk by someone and you smile, right? It can be that small, and you might have just made someone's day different because you never know.
You never know. We talked about how having children changed our lives. So I started my business in the 90s, and wasn't wearing corduroys anymore, by the way. But I started in the 90s and working way too much, not exercising enough, and got myself up to 340 pounds. Didn't even realize it. Saw the doctor, and the doctor, who I'm still with to this day, she said, "If you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate." My oldest was just born. And that's all I needed to hear. Right.
Mm.
That's it. So that's it. What the heck am I doing? I'm the one who got me here. I'm going to get me out. This is nobody's fault. This isn't the business. This isn't McDonald's. This is nobody's fault. This is mine. So I spent the next, about 7 months. I lost about 130 pounds,
Wow.
and people always ask me, I tell the story and they're like, "What's the secret? What'd you do? Tell me." And there's no secret, Darcie. This is discipline is the answer, right? I just got focused. I got discipline. It's my daughter. I'm not living for myself anymore. I want my daughters to have a father. Um, how does discipline play a role in your life, Darcie Warden?
Oh, um, so many ways. So I think and I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, intention is a really, really important piece of my setup for the day, right? So every morning I set my intention, and that's a discipline. That's my discipline. And my intention is to move my body. My intention is to connect with people. My intention
Mm.
is to serve my clients in the very best possible way I can. And sometimes, my intentions are specific, but taking care of my body, taking care of my mind, those two are at the top. And I'll come back every day. I'll kind of evaluate how my day was, and I'll plan for the next day, and I'll check in on my intention. How did
Mm.
I do? Where did I miss the mark? Where did I veer off? And not to beat myself up, but just to know, okay, so that happened, and how am I going to be different tomorrow? And so there's a tracking. So I have the discipline of tracking myself
Mm.
so that I'm understanding where I've set my attention, how it went, and how I'm going to do it tomorrow. And all of it being, I don't want to be a crazy person, right?
Mm.
I don't want to be, and when I say that, I mean like reacting and being angry and, kind of emoting all over everybody. And emotions are fine, but it's my issues are not anybody else's. They're for me to process. And so these are the important things in my world that I think about in terms of how am I taking care of myself, but also not blowing my stuff onto other people and impacting their world.
Mm.
Yeah. Does that answer? I feel like I was like blah 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 answering a lot, but
There's no wrong answer, Darcie. So
yeah, okay.
yeah, so it's intention. It's it's focus. It's interesting how. So do you journal, meditate
Yes and yes.
daily?
Yes. The meditation, I journal. It's actually they kind of are. I would say 5 times a week is
Wow.
is my. I'm not every day. I'd like to say that, but I'm not.
And is this where you gather intention?
Yes, yes. This is where I gather intention. This is where I also notice my thoughts. Because when I
Mm.
sit in meditation, the thoughts come in and I'll be like, wow, that's in my head. That is fascinating. Because when I'm going through my day, I don't realize it. But when things get quiet and there's time, I'm realizing, wow, I'm actually angry about that thing that happened a month ago. Fascinating, right? So it gives me that opportunity to kind of see what's present and to know what's still with me. And then I can work on letting it go, right? I have a therapist, I have a coach, I bring these things to my people, I have a team, right?
Mm.
And so I really appreciate my meditation because I ask for guidance. I ask for, what do I need to know today? But then there are times when I just let my thoughts show up and it helps me know what I'm sitting with and what I want to release.
When you discover, when I discover a trigger or something, why do I do a certain thing, and figure out the source, be it through friends, however, it is such a relief. It is such, like when you just said it, you were so angry at something that happened a month ago. You didn't even realize it until you realized it. It's wonderfully releasing.
Isn't
It's
that
nice.
amazing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, freedom. I keep coming back to that word because when we're not being held hostage by an emotion or an event that sparked an emotion without knowing it, and then we can let it go, there's still more work to do for sure, but at least it's not that one, right?
Mm. That I discovered kind of recently. My father is an Italian immigrant, and he stutters. So often when he would talk to me, uh, he would take a beat on the last word, whether he didn't know it in English or he was stuttering. To this day, if I am talking to somebody and they're talking and there's a beat before the last word, I fill it in because it's something I just did it all my whole life. And somebody put it to me, said, "Why do you finish sentences like that?" And so I didn't know. And then I just eventually figured it out.
Yes.
How wonderful.
Yes. And what a gift for that person to ask
Yes.
you that.
Yes. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. Why did you do that? I didn't realize I was doing it, but I've always done it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have that. We all have something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
At Rising Phoenix, you work with people in midlife invisibility, difficulty focusing, lack of motivation. Do they come to you with these issues and you address?
I was thinking about that because, as a business owner, I'm like, how do my clients arrive to me? What is it
Mm.
that's actually bringing them to me? And I have, after coaching, many people, I'm recognizing that they're coming to me because their desire is to move out of whatever it is they're in. And a lot of people are in a holding pattern.
They're stuck.
They're stuck. They know where they want to go, kind of ish, right? Even that might be not be totally clear, but they know where they're at is they're stuck or they're spinning their wheels. So if we talk about the hamster
Mm,
wheel, it's another way to think about this. They're super, super busy, but they're not moving in the direction that they want to go. And so they come to me, and it's interesting because a lot of people come to me and their life is not falling apart.
mm,
They're not in
mm.
crisis, but they are not happy with what's happening in the moment.
Mm.
Yeah.
That must be wonderfully rewarding when you help them with that.
It is. And it's really rewarding to see people get excited
Mm,
about about finding clarity, about trying something, about really, I had one client who was amazing when he understood his core values and he understood, one of the things he was trying to make some really big decisions. And I asked him in the past, how do you know you've made a good decision? How do you know
mm,
that was the right
mm,
decision? He goes, well, I was telling everybody. And I said, and he goes, oh my God.
mm,
And so to see those moments, and now he's killing it.
mm.
Yeah.
What motivates you, Darcie Ward?
What motivates me? Um, Gosh, that is a really great question. What comes to me is being my most me.
Mm,
So really showing up in my like most, and authenticity is a word that's used all the time.
yeah.
I think it's misunderstood now, or it can mean a lot of different things for people. But for me to shine bright so that others who are around me know that they can shine bright too. So my motivation is to bring bright, shiny people into existence.
Mm.
Yeah.
Bring bright, shiny people into existence.
Yeah. Because the people who I work with, I'll be like, how's your life? It's okay.
Mm,
Is anything bad? Not really. What's great? I'm like, that's not very shiny,
no.
right? So I want the shine. And when I talk to people about that, they're like, yeah, I want to shine.
And to shine. How do you measure success?
Mm, that's because it's not like I'm helping people earn $100,000 a year, right? So that's not like I can use that kind of success. When I see success in my clients, and I've asked them this, they know themselves better. They trust themselves. They they're happier, and they're taking risks that don't feel risky like they did before they saw me, right? So they're
Mm,
taking next steps that make sense for them instead of it feeling like it's a risk. There's still risk involved, but it's perceived differently. And I do work with a number of business owners. And so the risks that business owners take, can feel significant. And they're moving into areas that they've been desiring. So that's how I see forward progress,
mm.
happiness, consistency in whatever practices that help them stay healthy in whatever that means for them.
That's wonderful, Darcie. I I thank you so much for your time today. Our mutual friend Kelly Bonanno recommended. I'm glad she did. How can anybody who's listening? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, you can follow me on Instagram. It's risingphoenix.mt. And then you can also find me on my website, which is the risingphoenixmt.com. And I'm also on Facebook. You can find me Darcie Warden on Facebook. Yeah.
risingphoenixmt.com. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes. I thank you so much for your time today, Darcie. I hope one day, if I'm ever there in Montana, we meet somewhere, have a cup of coffee, and talk a little bit more.
You can count on it. I'd love that.
Thank you so much. You be well.
You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Disciple Conversations.